My name is Mark Dorison. I am a developer by trade, but I run Chromatic, a distributed web agency, where our team is striving to rid the world of bad websites. We're doing this through helping our clients solve the really tough design, development, and DevOps problems. There's 15 of us, designers and developers, who cover a span of 10 time zones, all working together, trying to delight and be of service to our clients. Our distributed team collaborates with Slack and other tools on work like CMS replatforming and migrations for shape.com and parents.com, as well as a reimagined content platform for all of Meredith Publishing's web properties, including brands like Martha Stewart, Family Circle, Better Homes and Gardens. Doing all this from our 10 time zones to their teams with their teams in New York, Des Moines, Iowa, Seattle, Washington. We're working on front-end application development for Casper mattresses with their team in New York. Performance auditing and overhaul for Maui Jim sunglasses with their teams in Peoria and Maui. And you name it, we've touched it on Outside Magazine's site with their teams in Boulder, Colorado, and Santa Fe, New Mexico. There are plenty of blog posts, Stack Overflow questions, and even talks here today, a lot of them over there, which are amazing, but they're about building an integration, an app, a bot, but that's not the purpose of what we're going to talk about here. What I think many of us would benefit from is a closer examination of the what and the why. What to build and why to build it. So I often find myself in conversation with other distributed business owners about how to replace the serendipity that is lost by not sharing an office. The magic moments that occur naturally when you're cohabitating with your colleagues in a shared space. With distributed teams, our interactions can be quite rigid. Many of us, probably in this room, feel we're chained to our calendars. But when you're in a distributed team, this is especially true. Our face-to-face interactions are limited and mostly occur at pre-scheduled times. So how can we use Slack to help us manufacture serendipity? I think my team has a unique perspective on this, as we have always been completely distributed. We've never had an office. We're at an important inflection point in how work is changing. But this is nothing new. This has been going on for as long as humans have been around. Let's put some context around this. Let's talk about just a few of the big shifts that work has gone through and think about how this might be the same or different from today. The first big change I'm going to mention is access to copper tools. This happened in Mesopotamia about 4500 BC. Copper is mostly found in mountainous regions and would have to be transported to other areas. So mining and metalworking specializations evolved in those areas. Mining towns were created. So this is amazing. It's a big change. The big benefit here, access to copper tools, changed how people worked. But there were problems to solve too. How are the agricultural regions going to get access to these tools? How are the mining regions going to get access to food? How is it solved? Trade developed. Second big shift, irrigation, advances in irrigation increased the food supply. This came to ancient Egypt about 3000 BC, ancient Rome about 2000 BC. And when this happened, people were no longer farming at a subsistence level. They could grow crops that would feed more than just their own family. The big change here, the big benefit from this, was that now not everyone had to grow those crops. It's allowed larger numbers of peoples to live in towns and cities because they didn't have to farm for themselves. all kinds of great things came from that. But there was a problem to solve too. One of them was larger concentrations of people in these cities and towns became targets and vulnerable to attack. So how was it solved? Standing armies were raised. They were no longer had to live in fear of roving hordes. Racing forward in time to the 18th and 19th centuries, the Industrial Age. Now, work prior to the Industrial Age was not constant. Agriculture was seasonal, hectic during planting and harvesting, but more relaxed the rest of the year. The skill and craftsmanship of the workshops was replaced by the discipline and anonymity of the factories. Tons of pros in this big change. Creation of machines and tools, the likes of which the world had never seen, steam engine, among many others. But tons of problems were created too. Workers were now much more easily replaceable, lost bargaining power with their employers, and therefore were taken advantage of. Huge problem, how was it solved? Unions came to power, somewhat evened the playing field, collective bargaining, and were able to reset the table. The internet, information age, if not the most important, certainly seems that way to those of us who are living through it firsthand. Limitless access to information, connections are now global, automation, machine learning, AI, and distributed work. Tons of pros, access to a larger talent pool for employers. You can see on the screens the Chromatic team. This team would not have been able to be built if we were not distributed. We were able to find the best people for the job, regardless of where they lived. Also, access to more job opportunities for employees, the flip side of this. Hopefully, if you ask the people in this photo, they would tell you that they were able to find the right organization for them and not be limited to the employers in their city or town. Improved productivity, keeping older generations in the workforce longer, improved work-life balance, tons of benefits. But there are definitely downsides. And as you might expect, there's backlash against distributed work. While doing some research, I found articles with titles like 7 Deadly Disadvantages of Working from Home, Don't Hire Remote Workers, When Working from Home Doesn't Work. Personally, I think these people are doing it wrong. Even if you are not a distributed company, is there any of us that sits within sight of every person we need to interact with in a given workday? You might be an organization that all works in the same space, but your clients are elsewhere. Your team or company might be spread out across different buildings. We're all distributed. It's just a question of to what extent. These days, being good at distributed work is just being good at work, period. But there are real problems to solve. Lack of human interaction, limited passive cues, not being able to visually see that someone is stressed, excited, happy, and a loss of serendipity. How do we replace the magic moments that can occur, last-minute group lunches, walks to the subway, chance meetings at the coffee maker? How can distributed tools bring us closer together? This can be our why. What can we build to help solve this problem? Tools that manufacture genuine interaction, tools that make people feel heard, and how can we leverage Slack to make these apps even more impactful and beneficial to users? So some companies are leveraging the platform and do a pretty good job at this. The first I'm going to mention are video conferencing tools, Zoom, Hangouts. Now, suggesting video conferencing as a solution here is very basic, but sometimes it is the small things. The fact that these tools have integrated with Slack and firing up a video chat is as simple as typing /Zoom or /Hangout lowers the bar to what it takes to engage visually with your team. The one-on-one meeting with direct reports or employees is pretty standard fare. But Donut pairs employees one-on-one or in small groups across an organization to help create interactions between peers or people on different teams, and it does it all through Slack. Hapster helps you collect feedback from your team in an asynchronous way using Slack. Feedback can be shared publicly or anonymously, and this can be a spark for discussions that would naturally occur if we were sharing an office, but just don't necessarily happen when we're on two different sides of a screen. Now, Know Your Company is one of my favorites and one that we have put to extensive use at Chromatic. It sparks 3 weekly interactions that are valuable in any team, but especially ones that are distributed. The first is the heartbeat. This is a weekly asynchronous stand-up. This is cool, but there are a lot of tools that do this. The second is a company question. It can be a question about your business, about your culture. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How can we improve? This is similar to Hapster in that the feedback can be shared anonymously or publicly with the whole team. Now, my personal favorite is the third, the social question. This can be anything from asking your team what their first memory was, what food terrifies them, what makes them get up early in the morning, or what do they say when they want to impress someone? The conversations that these questions start are invaluable. A simple question like that can turn into an hour conversation on a Friday morning and really give people additional context and value between each other that they wouldn't otherwise have. Another thoughtful part of Know Your Company is that they'll regularly ask the entire team to submit questions to facilitate engagement, not just on their responses, but also on the crafting of what gets asked. Now, creating serendipity is not an easy problem to solve. It's a lot easier to create an integration that replaces an email notification with a Slack message. But now is the opportunity to make an impact on how teams will interact with each other over the coming decades. The humans sitting in this room today, and that one over there, have the ability to define how this technology will be used to better the way we work together. So let's help write this story and build the tools that help create meaningful interactions. If Slack is where work happens, let's make serendipity happen with Slack. Thank you. If you want to talk further, you can reach me on Twitter or here, find me. If you want cute baby pictures, those are on Instagram. Thanks for listening.